This is a story of a young man named Mike. Mike lives in England. He is 25 years old. Everything about Mike is normal, except one thing. He has a secret in his life, which he not shared with anyone. He enjoys this. It is a very pleasant experience to him, even though it sounds weird, but it is true for him. He talks to insects. He has been experiencing this since his childhood. Before it used to happen occasionally, he could understand them sometimes and sometimes he could not. But for the last few years, his ability to communicate with insects intensified in his childhood. He thought other people also could understand them, but he is a grown-up person now. He already knows that almost nobody can understand or communicate with insects. This information gave him joy and sometimes he feels proud about it. Insects have a team which comes to visit him once in a week and share their problems, issues, and information. He also asks them many interesting things about their life and struggle. Almost everything about them is interesting to him. Days were passing by. This is the most enjoyable event for him. He prepares what he will ask them for all week, and when they come, he eagerly collects all information from them and appreciate that and thank them for sharing those with him. Insects most of the time addresses their own issues. They are less interested about human life and complications. For last few months, they continuously complained to him about shortage of food supply and asked him for suggestions. He went into the internet and collected information about food for insects and avail- availability of those in his town and in nearby other towns. He collected data of all food storage facilities within 200 miles of his house. Then one weekend, they came to him and again asked for suggestion for food supply. This time, he shared information about food storage facilities nearby. They were very happy to hear that, but he suggested them to do things as he recommended. They agreed on that. He showed them the most nearby facility and also showed them how they could enter into the facility. They were very pleased this time and went back to their home. They started to act according to the plan. They also have many teams. Each one is specialized in different areas. They managed to enter the facility from many places and started to collect food and bring back to their home. They also assigned the team to update Mike about their activities regularly, once or twice a week. After a few months, reports started to go out about problem in the food of that facility. Expert team came to investigate and they found out some insects caused damage. They blamed the security guard for not closing all doors in time and the matter was closed there. Everything was normal again. They came to Mike and gave all information about how they did it, where every small detail. He was very excited to hear those. It was like reading an interesting book. They were very happy then. After a few months, they again expressed their desire to invade another facility. Mike went into the internet and after analyzing for some hours, he finally picked the next target for them. He knew police will start investigating more vigorously if the same incident occur again. He did pick a facility far from the first one. He told them when they should start the attack. He analyzed the information about the facility and started to find weak points. He had all public information about the facility, pipelines, underground air exchange, and many other construction related information. He gave all the necessary information to the invade that place with ease. They went home with that. They formed teams which they would which they would need to perform the task. Each team start to work and finish their part. Everything went by the plan and they reached inside the facility without any trouble. Information about the inside was not available to Mike, so they gathered all the related information which Mike told them to bring and informed Mike. Then Mike again started to think and made some changes in the plan and explained them that they acted accordingly and the invasion was successful. As usual, report came in the news of problem in food storage facility by insects. This time, authority got suspected. It is very rare to have two facilities attacked by insects where there was no history of similar incident like this for a long time. State authority assigned an investigation firm to investigate this. This became a serious issue. They just could not keep losing their storage facilities one by one. The team started to find out the root cause of these type of incidents. Was there any link between these two? It would be difficult for them to find the insects were having human assistance. Anyways, this continued their investigation according to the evidences they had in hand, but they could not find any other reasons except natural causes. They submitted their report. In the meantime, Mike was also not just sitting at home. He had a grave responsibility to save the insects. Insects were also kept visiting him weekly and getting advices. He suggested them to lay low for a while, so they did. But eventually they were again short of food supply and again requested Mike for next venture. Mike was worried this time, as it was just few months back they had invaded one. Anyways, he felt sorry for them and started information collection work using internet and used all his brain power to pick the next spot logically. He got another target. He informed them, and as usual, they decided to do work on their part. He liked this part of them. They were very organized. Finally, they entered inside the facility and again informed inside information to Mike. Mike made some changes in the plan as they acted accordingly and the invasion was successful. This time, the government started to feel the heat. Almost all major newspapers and online medias were talking about this. They were blaming government for not taking appropriate actions. Government hired a larger firm to investigate. The firm started work immediately, but they could not understand how the insects entering into the facility. Each time they did it very intelligently. Also, they did not understand the selection of location of each attack by insect behavior. It should be in a particular town, but how could they pick different facilities in different town and their pick had many logic inside of it. For example, these facilities were easiest to invade as they had simple security system. Buildings were also not that much protected. Modern equipment were not available. They could sense that maybe they are getting human help, but that would sound weird. The government started to conduct meeting with medicine companies to give them something to save the facilities. All the companies started to work together on this issue and finally they introduced some new chemicals which might be very effective to kill the insects or at least save the facilities. This information was also in the news as they had a huge pressure from public to resolve the issue. So Mike also get the information. He was very tired. He was very worried. Then he started to study the new chemicals, their components, how to save the insects from these. It will be difficult for them to invade this time, and all the facilities nearly got alerted. A new security system and modern equipment were available to most of the facility. They started to check the premises every day, processing, cleaning every day, and also started to use the liquid chemical regularly. After few months, insects food was finished. They came to Mike, and Mike shared the new development in the facilities with them, and they were also worried. Mike asked them to wait for some more days and he would try to find some way to execute next attack. He started to contact professors in his university, attend their lectures. He asked them about it. Each one suggested some way to get protected from the liquid. He searched some other universities' online discussion groups to be shared on the medhood and selected few medhood eventually. He informed these two insects and started to do some testing at his home. He brought the liquid and asked for some volunteers from insects. They gave few members and he tried all shortlisted medhood on them. Few of the insects died immediately by the dangerous effects of the liquid, but one medhood gave satisfactory result even though that had some side effects. But insects agreed to carry out mission with having that risk. So they again started to work by the plan Mike gave them and they went to a near facility. As discussed, more security guards were patrolling the facility and they were also doing cleaning and all the time checking all the time. This time the invasion took much longer time and effort than last time, but they managed to collect some food and leave. This time the attack did not destroy the entire facility's foods, only just a portion, but even that was also a worry for government as they did all they could. This time insects had few casualties and few members got sick. This time, detectives started to find out who were searching for storage facilities, building documents, pest control, insects, and tried to shortlist few people. They arranged 24-hour surveillance on these people to find out any clue. Finally, government restricted publishing sensitive documents related to insects and pesticide chemicals related to insects. All storage facilities, building document and other linked documents were removed from the internet. They also decided to stop sharing progress in information of the investigation and keep it to only few members of the team. Prices of food went up and even for Mike cost of her food was higher then, but his love for the insects was much more higher than just extra $100 for food. He was not worried about the food price. He was actually worried about how to proceed with next attack. He did not know that all related documents which were available earlier was not found in the net. Even other less related materials also not available. He asked about this to his IT friends and they informed that government probably restricted this area to access those documents. He drove more than 300 miles to visit Uncle Tom. He stayed there for few days when to nearby beautiful places, went to movie with his cousins, played football with them. He was never good in playing games or socializing with people, but he always had a good relationship with his cousins. He tried to get his anxiety. He tried to hide his anxiety about insects and the issue with food facilities in his area. His cousins were also not interested about that, but they saw that in the news. He talked about movies and games and Uncle Tom's business. One evening, he found the computer was free and his cousins were also not at home. He immediately started to search the net, but still could not find anything. He thought probably these documents were banned in the whole country. He planned to go to a trip to France with his cousins. He shared this idea with them. They immediately agreed. They bought air tickets from online, selected the places they would go. They planned to rent a car and drive to places on the next morning. They went to the airport and found the airport very much full with people. People usually travels a lot in this time of the year. They boarded the plane. This was not first trip to outside of his country for Mike, but this was actually first trip to outside world for Jack and Robin, his cousins. They landed in Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport in France. Mike took them to the car rental place just by the airport and they chose a nice car for the trip. Robin tried to pay for the rent, but Mike insisted and paid for it. Driving through France was an enjoyable event for them, especially for Jack and Robin. Mike came to France before and already went to the listed places on his last trip. That's why he selected these places, as he knew all shops and malls of these tourist places. After driving for 8 hours, they reached the first destination. Each one drove for an hour by turn. Mike brought a laptop by using cash from the airport in France. He did not use his credit card as he suspected that government might hack to his laptop and restrict him to access the documents even from here. They went to a nice hotel, and when his cousins were busy with shower and other stuff, he quickly went online and tried to search for the documents and information. Luckily, he found those. He tried to download as many pages, PDF files as possible, as he was not prepared for this earlier and did not guess that government would could do that. Anyways, he already saved many files. Mike went to a few universities in France and met the professors and talked with them about the liquids and how to save insects from it. Back in England, detectives found Mike's activities really suspicious, and his trip to France also made that stronger. They decided to plant cameras and microphones in his house. They came to his house at night and slowly entered into it by not making any noise. They found many books related to insects and chemicals related to insects and pest control. They also found chemicals Mike brought for testing and many more in evidence which made Mike even more suspected. They immediately sent two detectives to France to keep an eye on Mike. Using surveillance camera, they found Mike brought laptop at the airport and also they found the car they rented. Two detectives went to the rental place and asked them to find out the current location of Mike and his cousins. Mike gave a number while renting car as that was a policy in France so that rental place could contact him or he could contact them in case of any emergency. People called Mike and greeted him and asked him about his trip and current location. Mike informed him the current location. Mike did not even suspect that detectives from England were after him even in France, but he was wrong. Two detectives Two detectives quickly came to town and they also contacted universities nearby to find out if Mike came to them asking about insects. Detectives showed them Mike's recent photo and they recognized him and informed the stuffs Mike was asking to them. The detectives were now almost certain that Mike must had some involvement in the invasion of storage facilities, but decided to wait and want to see how Mike communicated with the insects. They followed him in the rest of the trip. Mike was very happy then. All his anxiety was gone as he had a huge information now to carry out next attack. Only just one thing he did not know. Detectives were already after him badly. He came back home after saying goodbye to his cousins. There was nothing wrong in his house. He found everything in the right place. So he took a shower and ate his dinner and started to work on the documents. He did not know detectives already have his laptop's information and they hacked into it to find out his activities and reading documents. They were even watching him, so nothing about Mike was hidden to them now. They were following him in every step. They planted more than 200 teeny cameras in in the house covering each and every corner of it. And Insects had a scheduled meeting with him tomorrow, so Mike worked the whole night and planned everything for the next attack, and detectives were enjoying these activities. But they were anxious about the communication between him and the insects. Planning was done. Insects came on the following night and started to talk to him, but detectives could not understand with whom Mike was talking. They could not see anyone. They were surprised. Mike was talking to insects actually. It was an enjoyable conversation, as if Mike was having an enjoyable conversation with his best friend. The whole team of detectives were stunned. All of them stood up and watching the mysterious event very carefully. Some of them could not believe their eyes. Talking to insects was a shock for them, but the way Mike was having the conversation, that was really enjoyable to them. They could feel the love and attraction Mike had for them. Now they understood why Mike went to Uncle Tom's house and even to France. He was trying eagerly to save the insects. They liked it and thought it could be a nice movie story, but they had an obligation to save them and the state. Immediately after the meeting between Insects and Mike was over, detectives copied the recorded video and called a meeting with the government officials and slowed them the beautiful meeting between Mike and Insects. Government officials also got enthralled by watching it. They were speechless for some moment. It would be hard to believe if they did not have the video recording. They decided to arrest Mike. Immediately, a team went to Mike's house and brought him to the Central Intelligence Office. They started to interrogate him, and all other officers were watching from behind the glass. At first, Mike denied everything, and after 1 hour, they started to share their information to Mike, and then Mike knew that they had everything. They also informed him that they were planning to kill all the insects. Mike started to cry as he wanted to save the insects. Insects came to Mike's house in the next day and did not find him. They could not find any reason for it, as Mike was always available at his house in the meeting for years. They suspected that something might be wrong. They immediately stopped the invasion's groundwork and they started to conduct search for him. They used to they used his mail to find out his current location. They had a dog friend. They requested the dog to find him. They shared the smell of Mike's shirt with the dog. Now the dog and insects were trying to pinpoint Mike's location. They found the facility where Mike was resided. Insects tried to find opening to enter the building. They came through the front door when that was open. Slowly and slowly they went near the room of Mike. They waited for a while to enter into the room. After a few hours, they found a good opportunity to enter into the room. They entered into the room silently. They greeted Mike, and Mike was surprised to see them, but immediately informed them that he was under surveillance. He told them to come under the blanket and whisper for hours. Mike was crying by sharing the information that police was planning to kill them all. Insects were also started to cry and convinced him that they will release him and he could move to another country. And they will also go to a new place far from here, but they did not know how to escape from here. A team of 3 insects came to Mike. Mike asked one insect to find out how many guards are there and also find out how many guards were there and also some other information about door. The insect carefully tried to exit the room so that they could not see him in the camera. He sat in the side wall and watched what was happening outside of the room. He tried to go forward and see what else information was available. He counted total guards and doors before they could go outside. As Mike was planning to escape with insects, some security guard came and took him to a jail. Government had decided to keep him in the jail with maximum security. Insects were traveling with him by the roof of the car which was carrying him. Insect kept circling the jail facility and tried to find a way to go to Mike's room, but as the government kept Mike in a very special cell inside the jail, insects had to wait and search secretly for almost a month. They were watching all activities of guards and room. They found a room inside of a hidden compartment of the jail. That's why it took long time for them to find him. Eventually, they met with him. Mike's condition was broken. This was his first time in the jail. He'd never been locked down in a room for a month before. He also had claustrophobia. Food was also not good. Overall, his condition in the jail was miserable. Insects felt sorry for him and they started to cry. They shared all the information they observed for last 1 month. He already understood it would be difficult to escape from here as it was a high security jail and many professional serial killers were staying here for years. But still he did not lose hope as he had an extraordinary help from insects which others did not. He informed them to keep watching and report to him every night. It was very easy for the insects to search the jail as it was not clean and highly monitored by cameras like the previous facility. Here, it would be very difficult for anyone to recognize them by CCTV camera. Nobody actually cared about flying insects in the middle of the jail, so they started to roaming around and collect useful information and share those with Mike. Mike had an excellent idea. He planned to cover all CCTV cameras in other places of the jail and keep the cameras on his way to outside open. As all other cameras were closed, guards and security people would rush to those sites and increase security of those places, and his portion of the jail would be with less guard and security. Then the insects will attack the guard near his room, and door will door with huge number, but they would need something to open the door. So insects were trying for months to disturb the door locks near Mike's room. All the locks which would come on the way of Mike's escape were almost not working. Guards did not realize that, so they planned to attack tomorrow night. They assigned insects for each camera and separated them for each guard on the way to Mike's room. As planned, they started the attack on 3 a.m. in the morning. Guards were not prepared for this. All the cameras went black at the same time. Security room guards understood that it was an attack or attempt to break the jail. They were not worried about Mike's portion of the jail, as camera was working same as before and all people in that portion were acting normally. Most of the guards went to other side of the jail, and then insects came and attacked the guards. Each team did its job nicely. Mike was pushing hard to open the door. After conducting few tries, the door was open. Guards saw him escaping, but they were busy with the insects and the alarm was already ringing. No point of pressing the door button again. Mike quickly moved to the next room and kept hitting the door. That door seemed to be more firm. He tried to push it using other stuffs available in that room. After trying for a few minutes, that door was open. The team of insects which used to report him every night was with him, along with few more thousand insects. One guard came from nowhere, and the thousand insects immediately attacked the guard before he could fire towards Mike. Mike kept running with the help of insects. Eventually, insects showed him a small hole of the field by using which he could escape and go to the outside place. They showed him the way to nearby gas station. They attacked the shop owner, and Mike asked the owner to give his car key. Shop owner was afraid to see huge number of insects. He gave his car key along with some cash. He quickly started the car and broke the gas station's phone line and took the manager's mobile phone so that he could not inform authority. Insects also went inside of the car. He drove for hours and did the same trick with another gas station and changed the previous car. After changing many cars, many many times using the same trick. Finally, he crossed the border of his country and went to the neighboring country. Police could not find him again, and also the insects were gone from the city. After trying for years, they did not bother to carry on mission to catch him, as the insects were not also bothering them then.